A startling claim, documented cases where people were clinically dead, no heartbeat, no brain activity, yet fully conscious and later describing the experience in detail. In the next few minutes, you'll explore Robert Greene's most unsettling idea: the mind might not be the brain, and what that means for consciousness, creativity, identity, and the future of human thought. One insight will challenge everything you assume is real. Before we dive in, answer this: if your brain stopped, would you stop? Or does something continue? Drop your honest guess in the comments. The unsolved question. Have you ever noticed how the moment you try to observe your own mind, it changes? That's the trap Robert Greene highlights. Consciousness is the one phenomenon we can't study without disturbing. It's like trying to measure ripples in a pond while standing in the water. You're part of the disturbance itself. This problem never goes away. Even physics admits the observer alters what's observed, and with the mind, the effect is exponential. The real-world implication? Most of what we call self-understanding is a moving target disguised as certainty. So start small, observe your thoughts as events, not as truth. Two realities, one mind. That's liberating. The near-death evidence gap. Imagine thousands of people, across cultures and decades, all reporting vivid consciousness during moments when their brains produced no measurable activity. That's the unsettling archive Greene keeps returning to. These aren't vague dreams. They're coherent narratives given by individuals medically declared dead, then revived. Something persisted. The implications ripple outward. If the mind functions while the brain is offline, either our measurements are primitive, or consciousness operates on rules we haven't mapped yet. Both possibilities rewrite the materialist script. Stay intellectually agnostic. Treat every impossible report as data, not dogma. Two explanations, one mystery. Stay curious. The brain off/mind on paradox. Here's a question that science still sidesteps. How can a person report detailed experiences during periods where their brain shows zero electrical activity? Greene points to this paradox as the crack in the materialist worldview. When the machinery shuts down, consciousness should disappear, yet the evidence suggests the opposite. Silence in the brain, activity in the mind. Duofact. The implication is massive: either the mind is not generated by the brain, or consciousness survives in a domain we can't currently detect. Hold every assumption lightly. When data contradicts theory, update your lens. Two options, one truth. Adapt fast. The ancient clues. Picture early humans encountering inner voices for the first time. No psychology textbooks, no neuroscience, just raw strangeness. Greene argues ancient cultures understood consciousness as something wild, unpredictable, and often divine. They created rituals not because they were primitive, but because they recognized the mind as an unstable frontier. They took consciousness seriously. Those early myths weren't naive, they were attempts to map the invisible terrain we now ignore. Don't dismiss ancient wisdom as outdated. Study old frameworks the way you'd study modern theories. Two eras, one mystery. Perspective matters. The bicameral hypothesis twist. Let's flip one of psychology's strangest ideas. Julian Jaynes proposed that early humans didn't think the way we do. Instead, they heard their own thoughts as hallucinated voices, interpreting them as gods, ancestors, or commands. When people finally recognized those voices as internal, civilization shifted dramatically. Law, logic, introspection, and self-awareness exploded. One insight changed everything. Greene includes this not as truth, but as a provocative lens. The mind may operate very differently across eras, meaning consciousness evolves with culture. Challenge your cognitive defaults. Your inner voice isn't fixed, it's trained. Two interpretations, one signal. Question it. Psychedelics and the filter theory. Here's a surprising insight. When people take psychedelics, brain activity often decreases, not increases, even as subjective experience becomes richer and more complex. Greene sees this as evidence for the filter theory. The brain doesn't produce consciousness, it restricts it, like a valve or lens narrowing a wider field. Less brain, more mind. Duofact punch. If true, altered states aren't hallucinations, they're glimpses beyond the filter we mistake for reality. Notice the limits of your perception. Ask what your mind filters out, not just what it lets in. Two views, one world. Look deeper. Trauma, initiation, and rebirth. Imagine being pushed to the brink of death in a ritualized initiation, cold, fear, disorientation, only to be pulled back at the final moment. Ancient cultures used these ordeals intentionally because extreme stress seemed to break the mind open, temporarily dissolving the filters that normally narrow consciousness. Greene describes these rites as early attempts to access expanded awareness without modern science or chemicals. Pain became a doorway. The real-world relevance? Transformative insights often arise when old mental structures collapse. Controlled discomfort can create breakthroughs. Seek safe challenges that stretch your identity. 2 pressures, 1 transformation. Grow deliberately. The warehouse metaphor. One woman from a near-death study described daily consciousness as walking in a vast warehouse with only a tiny flashlight. You see one object at a time, mistaking the narrow beam for the entire room. But in her NDE, the entire warehouse lit up, new colors, new emotions, new dimensions of awareness. Everything became visible. Greene uses this metaphor to illustrate how limited ordinary consciousness truly is. Broaden your beam. Journal, meditate, reflect, or pause before reacting. Widen perception intentionally. 2 modes, 1 mind. Expand it. The invisible world we ignore. Consider how much of your life is shaped by things you can't see, ideas, emotions, expectations, memories. Greene argues that the invisible isn't mystical, it's the actual architecture of human experience. You don't see loyalty, fear, meaning, or identity, yet they shape everything you do more than any physical object ever could. The unseen rules us. Dual-fact punch. When you realize this, the material world looks shallow by comparison. Pay closer attention to what isn't visible, your motives, biases, intuitions. 2 layers, 1 reality. Look inward. If this exploration is opening a new way of seeing your own mind, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because the second half goes even deeper into the forces shaping your consciousness and the hidden mechanisms driving human behavior. The tyranny of the visible. Let's flip the spotlight. Humans instinctively trust what they can see, even when the visible world represents only a tiny slice of reality. Greene calls this our tyranny of sight, the brain's obsession with surfaces. It's why we judge people by appearances and ignore the invisible processes shaping them. The eyes deceive. In practice, this bias limits our understanding of others and ourselves. We confuse what's noticeable with what's true. Before forming conclusions, ask yourself what you aren't seeing. 2 signals, 1 truth. Slow down. Symbols as reality builders. Think about how a simple flag, logo, or word can trigger pride, fear, loyalty, anger, or unity. Physically, it's just fabric or ink. Psychologically, it's a doorway to entire emotional universes. Greene uses this to show how symbols become reality, not because they are powerful, but because humans pour meaning into them. Symbols move people. Dual-fact punch. Civilizations rise and fall based on the invisible emotional weight behind these shapes. Examine the symbols controlling your reactions: brands, political icons, cultural labels. 2 interpretations, 1 trigger. Choose yours. Paul Valéry's Esprit. Here's a thinker most people haven't heard of, Paul Valéry. Greene draws on his idea of esprit, not spirit in a mystical sense, but the collective mental atmosphere we all contribute to and live inside. It's the unseen field generated by language, culture, memory, creativity, and imagination. It's the mind beyond the individual. Valéry saw humanity as operating inside this shared mental web, shaping and being shaped by it. When you zoom out far enough, individual minds look like nodes in a larger network. Notice how much of your thinking comes from the collective. 2 sources, 1 thought. Discern wisely. The city of invisible structures. Next time you walk through a city, try to see it the way Greene describes it, not as buildings and roads, but as crystallized thought. Every bridge, policy, subway line, and touch screen began as an invisible idea in someone's mind long before it became physical. The visible world is the aftershock of imagination. Ideas become architecture. Dual-fact punch. When you see the world this way, the line between mental and material dissolves. You start realizing reality is shaped by what people believe, decide, and dream. Treat your ideas as prototypes for your future. 2 phases, 1 outcome. Create boldly? Human communication as a non-material force. Think about the last time someone said something that hit you so deeply you felt it physically. No object changed. No chemical entered your bloodstream. Yet the impact was undeniable. Greene highlights this as one of the clearest proofs that human communication isn't merely mechanical, it's an invisible force traveling between minds. Words reshape reality. Dual-fact punch. Two brains exchange signals, and somehow emotion, vision, motivation, or heartbreak emerges on the other side. Speak with intention. Your words carry more force than you realize. Two minds, one moment. Use it well. The illusion of reductionism. Let's challenge a modern assumption, the belief that everything can be reduced to smaller parts, atoms, circuits, neurons, algorithms. Greene warns this worldview is seductive but misleading. The moment you shrink a phenomenon to its components, you lose the richness of the whole. Reduction reveals, it also erases. Dual-fact punch. Try reducing love to neurotransmitters or ambition to survival instincts. It explains something, but not the experience itself. The risk? Mistaking simplicity for truth and calling mystery a flaw instead of a frontier. When analyzing anything complex, switch between parts and whole. Two scales, one understanding. Zoom wisely. The algorithm trap. Here's a future-facing twist. Greene argues that modern life is flattening the mind by forcing everything, creativity, preference, identity, into algorithmic boxes. The more data predicts us, the more we begin acting like the predictions. The map becomes the person. Dual-fact punch. When reality is filtered through recommendation systems built to optimize attention, not awareness, consciousness narrows rather than expands. We become predictable, not profound. Disrupt your digital autopilot. Choose content intentionally, not algorithmically. Two paths, one identity. Curate yourself. Consciousness as an emergent field. Let's consider the radical possibility implied by all this. Maybe consciousness isn't produced by the brain at all. Maybe it's an emergent field, something the brain interacts with, filters, and expresses, but does not generate. Greene never claims certainty, but he explores the idea because it explains the paradoxes, NDEs, psychedelic states, creativity, intuition, symbolic meaning. Mind beyond matter. Dual-fact punch. If true, the brain is a translator, not an inventor, of subjective experience. Stay open to models that expand, not shrink, the mystery. Two theories, one enigma. Think bigger. The unavoidable mystery. Here's the final twist. Greene believes we may never truly understand consciousness because we can't get outside of it. We're trapped in the system we're trying to analyze. That doesn't mean we're helpless, only that our quest will always include uncertainty. Mystery is permanent. Dual-fact punch. Instead of seeing that as a limitation, see it as an invitation. The unknown gives meaning to curiosity, to exploration, to growth. Make peace with unanswered questions. Two limits, one journey. Keep seeking. So when you put all of this together, the near-death evidence, ancient insights, symbolic realities, the invisible forces shaping human thought, and the limits of reductionism, you're left with the same conclusion Greene reaches. The mind is far stranger, wider, and more elusive than anything the brain alone can explain. Consciousness isn't a problem to solve, it's a landscape to explore. That's the real revelation. And the more you recognize the unseen layers driving your behavior, your emotions, your creativity, the more power you gain over your life. If you want to dive deeper into the invisible forces shaping human perception and behavior, stick around. The next video goes even further.